This was one of the most powerful speeches I ever watched. Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, delivered a speech at the University of Ottawa to a group of students. It was so packed there was an overflow room. He talked about the future of Canada, how to stand up to Donald Trump and the Trump regime, and how to keep Canada strong. I think when you watch this speech, and I've pulled out what I think are the main highlights, I think you'll see what true leadership is as he brings the house down and stands up against Donald Trump and this Trump regime. So Prime Minister Carney was delivering this speech in advance of the federal budget, which is set to be tabled on November 4th. And Prime Minister Carney says that almost felt like a State of the Union address for those watching in the United States and other places. And he was like, this is a hinge moment in our history as Canadians, and that we're all being called upon right now in this moment to work together and to keep Canada strong and to propel Canada into a successful future. Here, watch this.
And I've learned a few things since I graduated, and I've increasingly understood this point that, life doesn't proceed in a straight line. And that the history and the progress of nations are punctuated by hinge moments. Times when the future literally hangs in the balance and when our actions can be decisive.
Then Prime Minister Carney talks about the changes that are taking place, and he contrasts the changes that he experienced when he was coming out of university to what university students are seeing now. He talked about how when he was coming out of university, there were massive changes and the world was moving towards democracy. Now you see the forces swinging in the opposite direction, and Canadians are being called upon to stand up against these authoritarian forces, against the fascism that you see in the United States and elsewhere. Watch this powerful moment here. Play this clip.
The world is more dangerous and divided. The U.S., as we all know, has fundamentally changed its approach to trade. It's raising its tariffs to levels last seen during the Great Depression. And the scale and the speed of these developments are not part of a smooth transition. They're a rupture. And they mean that our economic strategy needs to change dramatically. And they mean as well, even though we both lived through time, or I lived through times of immense change, your future will not be the same as my past. Because my time as a student was marked by events of a similar magnitude, but in a very different direction. When I was your age, the Berlin Wall fell, leading to a long period of liberalization of the movement of goods, capital, and people, leading to a peace dividend.
Now, Prime Minister Carney says, let's be real here. The relationship with the United States is never going to be the same ever. Say goodbye to the relationship with the United States that Canada had in the past and relied on. That's never coming back. Watch what he says here. Play this clip.
Because of these advantages, over decades, our economy grew steadily more integrated with the United States through the Free Trade Agreement of the 1980s, the NAFTA Accord of the 1990s, and eventually USMCA agreement signed in 2018. Canada's trade increased by over 400% during that period, and our economy doubled in size. But this process, this decades-long process of an ever closer economic relationship with the United States, is now over. And as a consequence, many of our former strengths as a country, former strengths more particularly as our economy, strengths based on close ties to America, have become our vulnerabilities. And as a result of that, the jobs of workers in our industries most affected by the U.S. tariffs in autos and steel and lumber are under threat. And our businesses are holding back investments, restrained by the pall of uncertainty that's hanging over all of us. Our relationship with the United States will never again be the same as it was, even though in this new world of protectionism, we have the best trade deal of any other country, and we're working to make it even better still. Now, at the same time that all of this is happening, Technology is changing the way we work, live, and communicate. When I was in graduate school, the World Wide Web, as we then called it, was that was the modern term of the information superhighway, if you ever heard of that. The World Wide Web, as we then called it, was just beginning. We used pen and paper in class. We talked on the telephone to each other. And we talked about the same news stories, the same movies, the same bands. My generation was connected by wires, yours is connected by code, and yet our society today is becoming ever more disconnected. Our public square is fragmented by online echo chambers, where truth and fiction can be hard to tell apart, and where contrasting ideas tend to polarize, not persuade. Now, in the context of all this, as Canadians, we have relearned some key lessons over the course of the past year. First, we have to take care of ourselves because we can't rely on one foreign partner. We have to take care of each other because we are stronger together. And we've learned that now is not the time to be cautious because fortune favors the bold.
But Prime Minister Carney says that one of the most important things that Canada has and that it leads with, not just its economic strength and not just, its military strength or anything like that. He goes, it's the values and the principles that we stand for in Canada. And because we stand for these values and principles and we know who we are, that's what makes us stronger across the board. Here, play this clip.
Our government has the fiscal capacity to act decisively, and we must draw on these strengths now. Our second advantage is that Canada has the values to which the world aspires. Canada has always been, and we always will be, committed to fundamental human rights, to human dignity, and to individual freedom. We are a pluralistic society. Our cities are the most diverse in the world, places where people bring the best of their cultures.
And as I'm watching the speech, and to our American audience here, you think this is what a leader sounds like, right? By the way, this is kind of what California Governor Gavin Newsom sounds like here and some of our Democratic governors here in the United States. But the contrast between this speech by Prime Minister Carney and the speeches you see from Donald Trump, I mean, they couldn't be more different, right? It's one of the reasons I want to share this with you when you don't really see this on any other channels out there. This is why this is important viewing right here. And, no American media covers this other than the MeidasTouch network. Then Prime Minister Carney talks about, look, in Canada, we built, we explored. We need to bring that spirit back again. Let's play this clip.
We used to build things in this country. We can build again. We used to explore this country. We can chart new courses again. We used to take big, bold risks in this country. It is time to swing for the fences again.
This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack and hydration sponsor. IQ Bar is the better-for-you, plant protein-based snack made with brain-boosting nutrients to refuel, nourish, and satisfy hunger without the sugar crash. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix Sticks, and 4 IQ Joe Sticks. All IQ Bar products are entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial sweeteners. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, adaptogenins, and more. IQ Bar's plant protein bars are the smarter snack choice with more fiber and less sugar and carbs than the alternatives. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. IQ Bar has become part of my daily routine, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ bar, or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. I am truly obsessed with everything IQ Bar has to offer. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the sampler pack plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text TRUTH to 64,000. Text TRUTH to 64,000. That's TRUTH to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Next up, Prime Minister Carney talks about how Canada's military and industry should no longer be reliant on the United States. Canada needs to make its own weaponry. Canada needs to make its own, have its own steel production, its own manufacturing. Powerful moment of the speech. Play this clip.
Our strategy will recognize that in today's global economy, we have to build sustainably. It's not just a moral duty, it's also an economic imperative. It is a moral duty, but it's an economic imperative. Now, above all, we will build Canadian. The new security threats the world is bringing to our shores means we're making the biggest investments in our military in generations. But up until now, more than 70 cents of every dollar of military spending, military capital expending by our government goes to the United States. With our new Defense Investment Agency, we will make sure we build more of our security and defense capabilities here at home, creating new careers in aerospace and shipbuilding and cyber and AI for Canadian engineers, technicians, and scientists. It's the same thing in steel. Consider that, 80% of the steel that Europe buys is manufactured in Europe. 75% of the steel that the US buys is manufactured in the US. Only 40% of the steel that we use is made here. That doesn't make sense. Not when we have the people, the resources, and the companies to build right here in Canada. So our upcoming budget will move forward with our Buy Canadian policy, prioritizing Canadian steel, aluminum, lumber, manufactured good, and technology for Canadian projects. And with new orders for homes, infrastructure, and defense equipment becoming orders for Canadian suppliers, we will be our own best customer. So the welder who's working on a contract in St. John's can get a full-time job.
More from Prime Minister Carney right here.
Now, our partners around the world are already taking note of new Canadian ambition. Last month, we signed a historic free trade deal with Indonesia, the world's fourth largest country by population. We've just signed foundational agreements with the United Arab Emirates in AI and with the EU in defense and trade and with Germany in critical minerals. We're re-engaging with global giants India and China while we deepen our partnerships with our traditional allies. And to build on this momentum, I'm going to put it in context. Our goal for Canada is to double our non-US exports over the course of the next decade, generating more than $300 billion more in trade. And that's new orders for Canadian resources, technologies, and expertise. Now, we spoke of protection and building. We move to empowering. Each of you in this room and in the overflow room, each of you is here to get an education that you need to go out and build the future that you want. To be empowered with a better shot at the life you want for yourself and your family. We will keep building a country where more people have more of those opportunities.
And then Prime Minister Carney talks about, and he says, this is the central banker in me here, he says also, but he says, there is a moment and a time here for sacrifice. And we have to recognize that this isn't going to be an easy time. I mean, the changes and transformations that we're seeing as a result of the United States becoming weaker and weaker is going to have an impact on Canada. But a theme he returns to over and over again in this speech is that fortune in the future favors the bold, and that Canada right now needs to be bold in the moves that it makes while also leading with its principles and values. Here, play this clip.
Now, we need to be clear-eyed about where we stand today so we can build for tomorrow. Let me give the current economic context. I'm channeling my old central banker days here. Look, the situation in Canada now, the actual situation is that the rate of inflation has come down. It's come down sharply. But it's also the case that the cost of living is still far too high. It's also the situation in Canada right now that we're building a lot more homes. Housing starts are up this year. And affordability of those houses are improving. But it's still challenging. We need to build many, many more homes, and we need to build them a lot faster. This government is getting immigration under control, with asylum claims down by 1/3 and new temporary foreign workers down by more than 70% this year. To match immigration levels with our needs and our capacity to welcome them, this budget will include Canada's new immigration plan to do better for newcomers and for everyone. It's also the fact that in this economy, we are creating jobs as a whole across it. And it is a fact that we are forecast to be the second fastest growing economy in the G7 over the course of the next 2 years. Even though some critical sectors, I mentioned earlier, autos, steel, lumber, forest products, aluminum, and some regions are facing big, big pressures. So the facts are that at present, despite everything, despite these big changes, our economy is holding up. But it's equally true that if we don't act now, these pressures will only grow. And more fundamentally, our goal is not just to do reasonably well, but to grow stronger than the rest of the G7. And as we work to do so, I want to make this promise to Canadians. I will always be straight about the challenges that we face and the choices that we must make.
And then here's the kind of the final clip of this speech from Prime Minister Carney with a standing ovation. Here, play this clip.
And to finish, because we're all in this together, I ask you to get involved. The fact you're here this evening, we do many other things, shows that you're interested in being involved. Get involved. Look out for each other. Look after each other. I know from the history that I read in university and the history that I've lived since graduating that fortune truly does favor the bold. And the hinge of fate will turn on what Canada does right now. We're going to have to change how we do some things. But we will never change who we are. This moment has revealed, yes, the limits to our economic independence. Limits that we must tackle head on, and we will. But more importantly, what it's revealed is a nation that's more determined, generous, hardworking, compassionate, and ambitious than any other on earth. We are Canada strong. Canada fort. Vive le Canada.
I told you, a very, very powerful speech right there. One of the most powerful that I've seen across the board, any country, you name it. That's what a leader looks like right there. In any event, everybody hit subscribe. Shout out to the Maple Meidas and everybody who wants to subscribe to the Meidas Canada YouTube channel run by Charlie Angus. Just search Meidas Canada or Charlie Angus YouTube, Meidas Canada, and subscribe. Thanks everybody for watching, and have a great one.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.meidastouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.meidastouch.com.